Good morning, everyone. We are going to be looking at rounding fractions today. So if you could open up your books to Chapter 9, Lesson 1, go ahead and pause the video to go ahead and find that page. While you're doing that, I'm just going to fast forward a little ahead here. So as we look ahead, not going to worry about the problem of the day. Just remember that the last thing that we did was fractions to decimals. So I wanted to show this page real quick just so you could remember that how you read that fraction, like 6/10, is how you write it as a decimal 0 and 6/10. And we don't have a place value called hundreds, but we do have a place value called hundreds, but we don't have a place value called 25ths. So we have to change that fraction into hundreds. And that's how 4/25 becomes 0 and 1600ths. I'm going to back up here just a minute. Just so you know, how do you use benchmark fractions to round? What tools have you used to round numbers in previous lessons? Well, let's think about that. We have done rounding with decimals, and we have to use some place values in order to do some rounding. So we're going to talk about, okay, so if you round to the nearest tenth, then your answer should be in tenths. Or if you round to the nearest hundredths, your answer needs to be in hundredths. Other tools that we've used are some number lines. We didn't use too many number lines this year, but I know that you've done that in the past. And so do you think we could use some of these things for rounding fractions? Absolutely. We're going to be looking at number lines first. So as we look at this one, it says round 7/10 to 0, 1/2, or 1. So if you think about where 7/10 is located, this number line is already cut into tenths. So 7/10 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It would be right here. So 7/10, when you're looking at a number line, you can see that it is actually closer to 1/2 than it is to 1. It is 2 away from 1/2, but it is 3 away from 1. So the correct answer here would be 1/2. Take a minute to fill in your book. Lila has finished 7/15 of her homework. Has Lila finished about half of her homework or almost all of her homework? Explain your reasoning. Well, the way I would look at this is I would say 7 is less than half of 15. So say to yourself, what is half of 15? Well, half of 15 is 7.5. So she's actually a little less than half, but we're talking about, is it about half or is it closer to a whole? So as you're looking at this, you can, and if you were to put this on a number line, or if you think about just in the terms that I was talking about, half of 15 is 7.5. So it's going to be closer to that half mark. So Lila is about halfway done with her homework. Math in my world. A poison dart frog is 2 inches long. This is equal to 2/12 of a foot. Is 2/12 closest to 0, 1/2, or 1? So this number line is cut into 12 pieces. And as you look, 2/12 would be 1/12, 2/12 would be right here. So on a number line, when you've already marked it off into 12s, 1/2 is equal to 6/12. So thinking about that, if a half is 6/12 and we're at 2/12, is it closer to 0, 1/2, or 1? Well, as you look right here, you can see that 2/12 is actually closer to 0 than it would be to 1/2. So the length of your poison dart frog is closest to 0 feet. Now we know that obviously a frog exists and it's not 0 feet long, but that's not what we're worried about. We're worried about, is it closer to 0 or 1/2 when we're actually doing some measuring. Example 2. It says round 4/9 to 0, 1/2, or 1. The number 4.5 is half of 9. Well, 4 is pretty close to 4.5, don't you think? So the numerator in 4/9 is 4, which is really close to 4.5. So 4/9 would round to either 0, 1/2, or 1. And when you look on the number line, this number line is cut into ninths. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/9 is very, very close to 1/2. So when you're doing that rounding and you do that placement on the number line, you'll see that it is closest to 4/9. Here's our guided practice. So they've already pre-cut these number lines into 6s and 8s for number 1 and 2. You just have to place graph that fraction. Graphing that fraction means to put a dot on your number line. So we're looking at 5/6. This is already cut into 6 pieces. So 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, 6. 5, 6 is going to be super close to what number? If you guessed 1, you were absolutely right. Number 2, looking at 5/8, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8. 5/8 would be right here, which is super close to what? 0, 1/2, or 1? If you said 1/2, you are absolutely right. So here is the placement of those dots, and that's called graphing on a number line. I know we don't typically think of it as graphing on a number line, but that is what it's called. And you can see that 5/6 is indeed closest to 1, and 5/8 is closest to 1/2. So to add around fractions in your own words, if you think about that, it's easiest on a number line if you can, have the time to actually cut it into the pieces that you need, figure out where the half mark is, where 0 is, where 1 is, and you can do it that way. Otherwise, some will say, well, I think it's easier to just look at the numerator and see how close the numerator is to the denominator in terms of, is it closer to the 0 mark? Is it closer to halfway through that denominator? Or is it closer to being a whole? So either way, um, whichever works for you would be the easiest way for me, I would think, to round is to just see which way, if it's closest to 0, 1/2, or 1 when I'm looking at the denominator. So in number 3, the denominator is 8. We have a numerator of 1. 1 is going to be closer to 0 when you think about it in terms of 0, 1/2, or 8/8, or 1. So today's assignment is your independent practice. When you finish it, you can snap a picture of it and send it to me, or you can create a Google document starting with number 3. Make sure that you write Chapter 9, Lesson 1, and you can share that document with me and your answers. As you look ahead, I'm not going to give you all the answers. Well, I just gave you the answers on those accidentally. But if you're real quick, you can pause the video and take a look at that. Otherwise, finish out the assignment. If there's hot problems at the end, you don't have to do those. Take care and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.